You know, 1 in 25 humans have had a near-death experience. It's pretty amazing. I've met a couple of them myself, and then I was like, I had a near-death experience, and they're like, me too. And then it's really funny because some people are like super excited about it, and then some of us are like, yeah, it's all the same. And that's the truth of the matter. Is for the most part, everyone has the same experience. We all die. I mean, I shouldn't say we have the same experience, but again, we have the same experience. And here's why I say that. Like, we're all here, living on this earth, living in this experience, having this life and this experience together. But none of us have the same life, right? You couldn't be like, me too, across the board with everything. That's how it is with near-death experiences, right? We die, and I'm like, me too, right? And then as the story unveils, we all have messages, people we meet, experiences, knowledge, knowings, right? We've had all of these things happen to us, and they're very, very similar. And I've died twice, and it isn't like crazy, but again, it is kind of crazy when you think about it, when you go and you get these experiences and these messages and these knowings. And I mean, I remember when I died this last time, it was right after I gave birth to my youngest daughter. And long story short, I won't go into it, but I had to go in for emergency surgery. I was hemorrhaging and I died. And I very specifically remember dying. And I remember dying before I went into the OR. And I just briefly slipped away. And I remembered, like, it was so painful. Like, it was physically painful to die. And then the pain went away. And then, boom, it was painful. And I came right back. And in that split second, I remembered, like, just thinking of my dad and hearing my dad. And then just being like, oh, I can't die right now. And then again in the OR, I remember dying in the OR, and I don't know exactly how much time went by, because when you die, that's when you really realize, like, time doesn't exist. Like, you could be dead for a very long time, and it could seem like forever or a split second. It's just that individual's concept of it, right? And then at the same time, you can die for a split second, and it can seem like an eternity or like years, or also just super quick glimpse, right? It's everyone's experience, and the way that they process it is different, so the experience itself is different. And I remember, like, when I had died, it was like kind of, like I said, that brief one before I went in, it was painful. The second time I died, I was under anesthesia when I had died, and I remember leaving and being like, oh crap, I just died. And I remember thinking, like, if this is your will, if I have fulfilled what I'm supposed to fulfill, then may it be, right? Like, whatever this is supposed to be, it's what it's supposed to be. And but before that thought even came, it was just surreal, looking down at myself in the OR, looking at the doctors, and they're just like frantic, trying to figure out what to do and how to save me, and just taking that moment. I remember watching them take a moment and them talking about, I kind of get emotional over it, actually. I remember them talking about, like, how are we going to be able to save her? Like, she's lost too much blood. And then being like, we are not letting her die. She just had a baby. I'm like, ah. But in that moment, I was like, I remember kind of feeling someone behind me and looking, and it was like what I would call my guardian angel, my guide, that I already was familiar with and knew. And she was like, come on. And like immediately we went to heaven. We went to the lokas the universe, other dimensions, whatever you want to call it, but we left. And I remember being shown and taught so much in that time about what we do here, what we're supposed to do here, about human behavior, about how everything was created, about how the dimensions and realms are all just created and categorized, and how they're separated but they're not, and that we all really do have a purpose being here, and just that everything was going to be okay, and that, you know, I wasn't special. There was nothing special about me, that I did have something to fulfill. And I remember being like, well, and we were looking off into the distance, and it was almost like another plane. And what I mean by that is, like, it was like in the, like, this is the easiest way to explain it. It was like being in clouds, and you could see like this sheet that was like this whole other like world. And I could see mountains and waterfalls and living things and all of, like, it was another realm, it was another world. And I remember seeing it, and we were talking about it and looking down on it, almost like you would look at a skyline, right? That's kind of like the easiest way to comprehend that. And we were talking about it, and then I remember her pointing out over here, you know, and I look and it's all black, but it wasn't like scary black. It was just like all dark and black, and people were like in lines, and there were these huge towers of light, and it was almost like these funnels, right? And you would just like jump through your funnel, like your little soul, and you would be like light, and you would go through this tunnel into your next life. And that's when I started believing in an incarnation, because I was like, I've seen it, I know how it works. And her explaining all of that to me. And, you know, as we're going through all this, and there were so many things. And like I said, I actually probably should find out how long I was dead for. I don't know. I just remember being dead. And it was really interesting, because as I'm like learning all these things, I'm not like, there's no verbal communication. There's no physical touch. It's all very telepathic. It's all very experienced. It's light to light. And it travels so fast that it's not the same kind of experiences we have with our senses here. And I remember we get to a point where it was like, okay, you can choose now. And I was like, what? And it was like, you could choose, and I was like, I can't choose. This is not my choice. And then I remember just this extreme, like, I couldn't, there was no sound, but if there was a sound, it was like this boom, and it just shook you. Like, the vibration was so intense, and all of a sudden there was just this mass, like, at the same time, simultaneously, intense vibration, and this blinding light, and there was movement everywhere. And I just remember looking down, and I just kept thinking, like, this is God. I can't look. I knew, like, I just bow. Like, I couldn't look, and just keep your head down. And hearing this really, really loud voice of saying, like, what do you choose? And I was like, I choose whatever I'm supposed to do. If I'm supposed to go back, send me back. And mind you, at the time, I was already chronically depressed. I did not understand my purpose in life, my direction in life. I knew I was on the wrong path. I did not know how to fix it. I was miserable. I was chronically ill, and exhausted, and not authentic, living for everyone else, worn out from doing all the things. Like, I was just, ugh. And I kind of wanted to be done, but I was like, that's not the right answer. The answer is, and I remember thinking that, like, that's not the right answer. That's a cop out, if you will. Like, have I done what I was supposed to do here? Because mind you, I already pretty much got a tour of the universe and why life and all these things. And I was like, I've done nothing with my life. I've just lived for all these other people, and there was so much hate and anger inside me, and so many questions. I think that's why I ended up with the tour and so many questions, and she was so wonderful in answering so many of them. But being born, and well, we're all born psychic, but you know, not losing that and always being that way, I've seen a lot of stuff, and I had a lot of questions, and I also wanted answers. You know, I wanted to understand like where I came from, why I was here. You know, what was the purpose of me being able to see all these things, and so when it came down to it, I was like, am I done? If I'm done here and I have fulfilled this and don't have to live it again, I'm okay. If the kids will be okay, and this is your will, then I can be done. If it is not your will, then I'll go back. But please give me guidance on what I'm supposed to do. And I came back. But all that to tell you, there was, these are the things we talk about here in this house, death a lot. And I don't think that we should be so like scared of death or taboo about talking about it. I mean, it is like the one guarantee in life, we're all going to die. Like, that is how it works. I think it's really funny, all these people with the anti-aging stuff, and it's okay to be healthy, but you should not want to live forever. That was not the purpose of these lives. And what are you going to learn if you live forever? Like, you're not ever going to ascend, right? And it doesn't matter what belief you have. The beliefs all are intertwined, right? It's just the mental construct that's been wrapped around it, and humans' ability to cognize it, that has created the structures of religion. I'll get on that subject another day. But when you sit here and you think about all of this, there's a gentleman that put out a book, and it's actually a second book, and it was so fascinating as we were talking about it today, all about near-death experiences. I'll share the link with you. Get the book. It's very fascinating, and I think it's something that we should all understand, that like death doesn't have to be scary. It's not supposed to be scary. It does hurt. I'm here to tell you, both times I died, I guess all 3 times I died, it definitely, like, it physically hurt. I know when I was in anesthesia, it didn't hurt, but I do remember coming back into my body, and that hurt. It's like a big thunk, and you just get so physical and heavy, and like the weight of the body hits you, and it's like when you fall on cement. Maybe it's more like falling on like hard ground, not cement, because like there is a little give. Anyways, but you definitely like feel it, but the reality is like it's for a split second, and then it's just amazing what happens and what opens after that, and how much joy and love and peace come. Yeah, it's just crazy. So many people don't understand the days after that and the window you have to resolve everything and move on. And it's so important to understand that, because you don't want to miss the opportunity to move on. There's a lot of us out here that help souls move on all the time, because there's so many stuck here because we don't understand what happens after death. And I think that it's really good to know and to understand and to know that there's so much peace afterwards. You don't got to stay here. Like, you can leave, and it's beautiful. But I want you to get his book and hear about all these near-death experiences, or NDRs. And the reason I want you to understand and experience it is because if you're like me, you're looking at all of the patterns, and you can put the pieces of the stories together. And this man was originally an atheist or non-believer, whatever you want to say. I'll let you listen to his story before he went on this journey. And I just want to say also that God is the concept and the interpretation of God and who it is to you. I'm not promoting any religious belief or telling you you need to believe anything or, nothing like that. I just love sharing information, and I thought that this was just a really good way to do it. He did end up becoming a pastor, and then after being a pastor, he ended up writing more books. But it's phenomenal, and I highly encourage you to look it up. So I'll give you the link to his book, and I look forward to hearing how it goes for you.